Okay, guys, here we are with the final champion reveal. It is Shyvana. Yesterday we did see some dragon cards, so it was already kind of obvious that it was going to be Shyvana, but I did play a bunch of dragons while the deck was kind of unfinished. It had some missing pieces, and it looks like they're finally bringing us those pieces, so let's just jump into it and see what those pieces look like exactly. Nice little cinematic. Oh, wow.
Fire and fury burn in
I like
me.
it.
The dragons.
Shyvana, attack. Give me +1/+1 this round. I've seen dragon allies deal 12 plus damage, so it's an I've seen. It's not. She has to be on the board to level up. Okay, so 4 mana, that is huge. Just the fact that she has 4 mana is probably going to mean that dragon decks are going to be playable and competitive. The reason that it's very important that she's 4 mana is because of the White Flame Protector previously being the only 4-drop dragon. It was in Targon, and that's a big deal because of the Herald of Dragons. Because the only play you could really make that was very good was going turn 2 Herald of Dragons into White Flame Protector on turn 3. But now this can be Herald of Dragons into Shyvana. And if you are on an attacking turn, getting a 4/5 is pretty ridiculous, I think. Wow. All right, let's just keep going and see what else he does.
Out.
White Flame Protector right next to her, like I just mentioned.
Break them.
So she doesn't have Fury on her base form. That's interesting.
A challenge lies ahead of us.
This time, we'll be ready for
When
it.
I'm summoned, if you behold a dragon, rally. Whoa. Wait. With Shyvana's attack ability, that's really interesting.
Suffer my fury.
Here we go. Let's see, levels up.
Now I take to the sky.
Oh, what? Holy shit, that's a sick level of animation. Oh. Attack. Give me +2/+2 this round and create a fleeting strafing strike in hand. Wow, that card art. Okay, so she just gets an upgraded attack ability and she gets a fleeting card, but we don't know what that is yet. Okay. Attacking with your 1/1. Oh. Alright, I was too late. Maybe they'll show it again later. Oh, wait, okay. An ally and an enemy strike each other. Then, if the ally is a dragon, heal it too. Wow. That's like single combat, but better? It's 1 more mana, but you get the effect to heal it too. That's a big deal because dragons are doing a lot of combat. Like in the dragon deck, you run a lot of concerted strike, single combat, judgment, all strike effects. So your dragons were always injured. And for that reason, guiding touch and star shaping were really good in the deck. But this card is like a single combat with the healing effect attached to it. But you have to strike first and then heal it. That's actually that makes this very good. It's like casting a guiding touch on it after the combat. I mean, you don't get the draw, but Shyvana creates this card in hand, so that seems really crazy to me. All right, let's talk about that after the video.
From the skies.
Damn, this looks awesome. Mid-range dragon deck. Grant an allied challenger, is that what it said? That's pretty good in dragon decks. Challenger is insane on dragons because of their Fury keyword. This looks awesome. I was excited about Tom Kench. But this is a deck I'm gonna have to be playing a lot too. Alright guys, I'll be back with my thoughts on the cards and to go a little more in depth. So I'll see you guys there. Alright, so here I am with my in-depth thoughts and my predictions on what the deck is going to look like. So let's start with Shyvana first of all. She has 4 mana, which is extremely good. I was expecting her her non-leveled form, her human form, to not have the dragon tag, because I don't know, like it just made sense kind of thematically. Like she goes from human to dragon, but the fact that she is a 4 mana dragon makes this so good with the Herald of Dragons. Like the only play you had was playing the White Flame Protector, but now you can actually go turn 2 Herald of Dragons into Shyvana. And if you are attacking, she's going to be a 4/5 on turn 3. That is very hard for some decks to deal with. And you start leveling her too with that, which is just crazy. Like that's already 4 damage for a level up. Like it's hard to say how hard that level up ability really is, because I think like on paper it sounds easy, but it's like you have to keep attacking with Shyvana, which makes it like likely that she'll die or be too injured to keep fighting if you want to level her up. I think it's not going to be hard, but I think against some decks it's not going to be easy at all either. Like, at what point in the game are you going to be looking at 12 damage from dragons on the board? I think you don't want to run any cards that cost 4 mana or more that are not dragons. I can see like some. I mean, except spells, of course. Like obviously, some spells are going to be more expensive than that, like Concerted Strike, maybe even Judgment. But I think you're going to run the Herald of Dragons. You're going to run the Egghead Researcher that I'll talk about later. I believe that's his name. You're probably going to run Spacey Sketcher or something like that. Maybe you run more of the 2 drops that got revealed, like the 3/2 Challenger. But I can't think of anything. Like even Radiant Guardian is probably not worth it anymore in a mid-range dragon deck. The reason that was run was kind of to just have an auto win against aggro most of the time. And Demacia is already pretty good against aggro on paper. I definitely think that Shyvana is going to make dragon decks very good. I think this is going to be an outstanding mid-range deck. I think it's going to be pretty simple to play because what you're trying to do is pretty like you're just trying to win combat trades. Like I love the fact that dragons are in Demacia. It's actually it fits perfectly for the region. So the fact that Shyvana is a dragon, like she always has been, right? Like probably before Riot even started developing Runeterra, Shyvana was already supposed to be like from Demacia and like she loves Jarvan or something. I don't know. But the fact that it actually turned out this way and that dragons can have such a simple like Fury keyword that fits so well in Demacia, like thriving in combat, something that Demacia is known for. It's fantastic. It makes dragons so cool and so fitting. I'm very happy with what they did, and I think just the fact that he's 4 mana and just has a good stat line, I guess, when you're attacking, with the ability to grow and benefiting from strike effects, especially once he levels up and getting the strafing strike in hand, is going to make this deck much more consistent and better performing. Like even I forgot the name, but the 3 mana burst spell that draws a dragon or gives your dragons +1/+1. That's incredibly good for Shyvana. Like if you're playing a Shyvana Aurelion Soul deck, like the chances that you draw your champions are going to be increased because they're both dragons. It's insanely good. I really like this. I'm happy with what they did, and I can definitely see this deck being a contender for one of the top decks easily. It's just a replacement for mid-range Demacia, probably like the standard Demacia decks where you just play good units with Vanguard Bannerman. I mean, Demacia is going to have a similar playstyle where you just play good units that have the ability to grow, but you can do way cooler stuff because of they're dragons. So I like this. I think this is a fantastic card. I'm definitely going to be playing a bunch of Shyvana. It's like Monuments of Power was the expansion made for me and not Quality Mountain. Like all my favorite like ways to play and champions have just been released in this part of the expansion, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. They nailed it. They really did. It's awesome. All right, so next is Shyvana's champion spell, and it's Shyvana's Confront. Grant an ally challenger. This card confuses me. Obviously, giving challenger to dragons is very good because of their Fury keyword and their, you know, above. Well, I don't want to say above average, but they're good stat lines. But this is like the other Demacia card, Enguard, I believe, which gives all your allies challenger this round. Mm. I guess this is better for dragons because you keep the challenger keyword and you can keep growing with the Fury keyword. But I'm not sure if I like this. I think it's good as a champion spell, but I think you never main deck this. I, especially in Demacia, you just can't main deck cards like this. It's a good card though. You're gonna be happy getting this when you already have Shyvana on the board. Especially if you're playing Shyvana already, because I mean you have to be playing Shyvana to get this as a champion spell. But the fact that it worked with Shyvana is because you want to kill smaller units with her because you want her to survive and keep growing that attack stat. So it's a good spell. It makes sense, but I don't think you main deck this. And then there's Strafing Strike. An ally and an enemy strike each other. Then, if the ally is a dragon, heal it too. So I just talked about this during the reveal. I think this is very good. Wait, oh wait, I didn't realize this is actually main deckable because it has a gem on it. That's why it shows up in the reveal chart. Okay, so that's interesting. So this is, would you play this over? The question is, would you play this over single combat? I think that 1 mana might matter quite a bit. 2 mana, 3 mana, especially in the early game. It's not very likely you'll be floating that mana in a mid-range deck because you just want to play on curve, right? Maybe this means you drop like a card like Concerted Strike or Judgment because you want to keep those cheap strike cards. I could see it. This is not something I can really decide on. It really depends on how much the mana matters. Yeah, this is definitely a card you have to play around with. I mean, the fact that if the ally is a dragon, you're in a dragon deck, you're only going to be striking with dragons. That's almost a guarantee. You're not going to be playing regular units because they just don't synergize with the deck. Especially now that Shyvana's here and she actually has the requirement of needing to see dragons deal damage. Wait a second. I've seen dragon allies deal. Wait, that's on block and that's on strike effects too then. Wow, okay, that makes it a lot easier to level her. That just hit me. For some reason I kept thinking on the attack, but wow, like the more I think about Shyvana, just the better she gets. Okay, yeah, no, makes sense. I think it's the possibilities that you include Strafing Strike are actually getting higher and higher the more I think about it. But still, I think it's probably going to be 3 copies of Single Combat, 3 copies of Strafing Strike, and maybe like 1 copy of Concerted, or maybe 2 copies of Concerted Strike. And then you drop the Judgment. That's my guess right now. Okay, and then next up we have a big dragon, a 9 mana 9/6. Cadregrin the Infernal. I probably mispronounced that, but I'm too scared to try again. So keyword Fury, when I'm summoned, grant other dragon allies everywhere +2/+2. That's like the effect is insane for dragon decks because of how well they scale with stats. The problem is it's 9 mana. Now there are ways to cheat it out. God, that's so interesting. Can you really play a slow dragon deck like that though? Damn, I want to play this card, but 9 mana? And on a 9/6? Yeah, I mean, good luck getting there. Oh wait, when I'm summoned, grant other dragon ally. So I guess that means he doesn't give himself +2/+2. That makes sense. I want to play this card, but I think it's too expensive. I think for a dragon deck, it's too important that you take over the game by mid game, and this is a late game card. Like you in a dragon deck, supposedly you'll be running Aurelion Soul too, and that's gonna be like your late game bomb that your opponent cannot come back from. So I think the choice is between this and Aurelion Soul, and I think you want Aurelion Soul because he's a bigger threat for your opponent. I like this card a lot, but I don't think it's playable. Too expensive. Next is Eclipse Dragon. 7 mana 7/5 Fury with a Daybreak and Nightfall. Daybreak, the next dragon or celestial unit you play costs 2 less. Whoa, the next dragon. Imagine this with Aurelion Soul and a Herald of Dragon on the board. Maybe you invoked a Moonlight that like the 0 mana cost that reduces the cost of a card by 1. You are going to be playing one early. Well, okay, it's 7 mana, so you can't really do it much earlier than that. But you're going to be able to cheat out an Aurelion Soul. Like this on 7, Aurelion Soul on 8. This makes the dragon we talked about previously a lot better too. Alright, and a Nightfall effect. Create a random dragon follower and celestial follower in hand. That's pretty good too. Like sometimes you don't really care about like especially in the late game. It doesn't really matter anymore if you're going to be cheating out dragons or not because you're already in the late game, so that cost reduction is not going to get you like a super big advantage unless you're trying to combo some cards. And that makes the Nightfall a lot better in late game. Yeah, I like this card. I think you're going to play at least one copy in Dragon decks, just to like not lose momentum in the late game. This card is very good at that. It's actually so flexible. Damn, it's crazy. Yeah, I like this card. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be playing this in my Dragon deck. Absolutely. And then lastly, Dragon Guard Lookout. When I'm summoned, if you behold a dragon, rally. This is very comparable to Citrus Courier, except it's basically going to be active permanently in Dragon decks. So in Dragon decks, this is just 6 mana rally. Um, no, I'm not a fan of this card. I think Relentless Pursuit is just better. That's the easiest comparable, right? The other rally effect in Demacia, the best rally effect probably. Yeah, I don't think this card is that good. It's good with Shyvana though because of her attack. Like you keep growing and growing and growing her. This also makes the challenger make a lot more sense. But still, I don't see it. Also, I just realized the Eclipse Dragon is in Targon. That's something to take note of. But yeah, let's move on to some of the cards that were revealed yesterday and the day before. Let's start with the dragons, obviously. Okay, so from the reveals from yesterday, let's start with one that is very close to my heart. That is a 7 mana 6/6 dragon, Stalking Broodmother, Fury, and Scout. It's a new Scout card. They're actually supporting the archetype. That's fantastic. I'm not used to card games doing this where they give support to older archetypes or like even reintroduce a keyword that came from an earlier expansion. But I love this. It's not a great card, but it has Scout, so can't go wrong with that. Also, Scout on dragons is actually very strong. Well, I mean, okay, not necessarily on dragons, but just because it has the Fury keyword, it's very strong. Scout Fury. This actually makes that challenger card a lot better too. This could be a Genevieve on steroids for a dragon deck. Like in dragon decks, I don't think you care that much about giving your entire board +1/+1 because they're all dragons, so they're going to be really strong anyway. But 7 mana is an awkward spot to be in for a vanilla card like this. It doesn't like generate any real value. It's a big dragon that attacks twice. I want this card to be good because it has Scout, but it's probably not going to be playable. From all the generate dragon effects though, I think you'd be happy to get this. It's like you don't mind that this card gets put in your hand, but I don't think you want to draw into it and potentially not be able to play it. And then we have a card that I like very much and I'm going to be very happy to play. The Egghead Researcher. 2 mana 1/3. When I'm summoned, create a random dragon follower in hand. That's great. Like this is just such an easy way to generate value or steam in a dragon deck. They don't really have that many plays before turn 4, except the Herald of Dragons. Like the only real card that you want to put on the board as early as possible is the Herald of Dragons, and that's not a chump blocker. You got to keep that alive. Egghead Researcher is just a good early game card because of cards like Legion Saboteur, which this trades favorably into. Yeah, it's a nice way to generate value. It's a good early drop. You're not going to be unhappy drawing this in a late game too because he instantly gives you a dragon. So it's a good card. Just something that is going to go very well in dragon decks. And then there's the last card that synergizes directly with dragons. The Dragon Lieutenant, 2 mana 3/2. When I'm summoned, if you behold a dragon, grant me Challenger. So this is probably the one I like the least because while it is a good card, it it's I don't really see what this does in a dragon deck. If this was a dragon himself, this would be very, very good, obviously. But I don't know, a 3/2, it just doesn't trade into that many things right now in the meta. Like just think about this against any kind of aggro deck. You're not really going to be you get a 1-for-1, which is not that good in aggro. Or I mean against aggro because aggro is very happy to take that trade. So in Dragon decks, this is always going to be a 3-2. In any other deck, you're probably not going to hit that challenger. So I think for Dragon decks, this just doesn't make that much sense. Yeah, not a fan of this card. I don't think it's going to see play in Dragon decks at all. They have too many things they want to do at turn 2 already. Next, Snnuy Suppressor. Man, this card is going to shake up the meta in an unbelievable way. It's a really simple card. All spells cost 1 more, a 2 mana 1/3. This is going to be such a meta call. Like, imagine this card against Lee Sin decks. Their gem costs 2 instead of 1. It's going to be so much harder to activate Lee Sin's effect. Like, all their burst spells now cost 1 more. And you're playing Demacia, so you're not really going to be playing a whole bunch of spells. Man, the flavor of this is just so... chef's kiss. This is even like sets up for Galio in the future. Because this is the material that Galio is made out of, right? I mean, I played a bunch of Galio after his rework on League because he just, I mean, listen to that voice. It's just, God, music to my ears, that voice. And then there's this card, which just hints at him pretty heavily. And I just love the flavor for Demacia, the anti-magic region. So all the spells they have are basically about combat and protecting your units. So you don't really care that your spells cost 1 more. And this also is pretty funny with Lux, because this might make it easier for Lux to generate spells. Like Concerted Strike becomes 6 mana, which levels her up. Also, Star Shaping becomes 6 for Lux. Yeah, it's just a good card. It's fantastic. I don't know what deck you'd play this in right now, but there will be decks in the future that play this, for sure. Decks will be built around the fact that they can include this and abuse it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's a cool card. The last Demacia card is another insane one in my opinion. 2 mana burst spell, Sharp Sight. Give an ally +2/+2, and I can block units with elusive this round. So the only thing I have to tell you, 1 word, 1 card, Transfusion. This is Transfusion without the downside of dealing 1 damage. Obviously that is not a downside in Crimson decks, but the fact that this also has I can block units with elusive this round is crazy. So many games are blown out because somebody generated or invoked a elusive card, or you're playing against an elusive deck that buffed the Green Glade duo, or you're playing against Zap. But this makes elusive very counterable for Demacia. And I think it's very fitting that this is in Demacia too. This is a crazy good card. I really like it. This would just go straight into Scouts, into the Vanguard Bannerman decks, because it's Ranger's Resolve. It's as good as Ranger's Resolve, and that card is insane. Giving this to a Scout is ridiculous. Like, I would play Transfusion in my Scout decks if I could, and this is just better than that, right? So I'm very happy with this card. It's definitely going to find a home in a lot of decks. Okay, and then we have 2 cards from Ionia that were revealed. Trevor Snoozebottom, first of all. 3 mana 0/3, create an attacking Mumble Sprite with my supported ally stats. So a Mumble Sprite is an elusive ephemeral that just copies the stats of the unit you're supporting. This card does not look good to me at first glance, but I think there's a lot of things you can do with this. And I think eventually this is going to find a home in one of those support train decks, right? Like with Taric. I played a bunch of like Lulu Taric, and I found that it's kind of difficult to close out games. And that's exactly what this card is for. Like, sometimes you have a huge unit, but you can't close out the game because you're often going to be stuck with one huge unit, and then no way to support other units to grow as big and overwhelm your opponent. So with this card, it does what Startled Stomper was supposed to do, because that card has Overwhelm, so you're supposed to buff that card for support decks and, you know, get lethal in like at some point in the future. But this card, it's like a rally effect kind of. You only play this when you want to close out the game, and I think it's good for that. I think that's kind of what that deck lacked. So it'll find a home in Dose deck, but I don't know any other applications right now. But I'm sure there are some. There's going to be more applications for this card, but my first thought is just support decks. It's going to be very good in that for actually closing out the game. And then there's Nopify. Stop a fast or slow spell that costs 3 or less for 2 mana. So This is obviously like a small deny, but you're not going to create like an insane mana advantage. Like if you deny a War Mother's Call, you're getting an advantage of 8 mana because you're spending 4 mana to stop their 12 mana spell. So this cannot get more value than 1 mana. But still, like, you can't put value on what it means for a game if you protect your unit or not. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about this card. I mean, you can stop Rally, you can stop Get Excited, Zenith Blade, even cards like Make It Rain or Mystic Shot, Glimpse Beyond, Flock. But those are like, I mean, okay, there's Rally. Like, Rally would be the big one to deny. But aside from that, I mean, I think there's just going to be, like, at some point, there's just going to be full deny decks. Like, 3 denies, 3 notifies, 3 Will of Ionias, 3 single. Okay, that's maybe that's pushing it. 3 singular wills. I think it's a good card. I just don't think it's like. It depends on the meta. It's a meta call for sure. So time will tell whether this card's playable or not. It's definitely not a bad card, but it just depends on if you can play an Ionia deck that actually has a space for this. So we'll have to see. That's all I can say. Time will tell. And we're on to Noxus. These landmarks that some of the regions have been getting are extremely interesting. We're going to start with Nox Crya Arena. Landmark, round end, your strongest ally and the weakest enemy strike each other. There's so many different applications. Think about this in a dragon deck too, by the way. I don't think you can really go into Noxus with dragon decks, but if you can, oh boy. The stuff you're going to be able to do with this card. How does that work with Overwhelm? They strike each other, so Overwhelm doesn't necessarily go through because it's a strike. I like the fact that it's your strongest ally and the weakest enemy, so it's very flavorful for Noxus, and if you think about it, you should always be getting the favorable trade, or the favorable end on this effect. It's likely that you'll be able to set up a way to make your unit survive while killing your opponent's units. The problem I have with this is the mana cost. At 5 mana, this feels super awkward. At 5 mana, you're like just out of reach from, like, you want to use this on a lot of 5 mana cards, I think. Like, what about Garen, for example, with the strike effects? What about Radiant Guardian? Yeah, for that reason, I'm not sure. I can't think of a 4 mana card that would love to have this effect trigger on the next turn. So, the mana cost might be what holds this back. Hard to say, but for now, I think it's one of the better landmarks, and I'm gonna be trying it out, but I don't think it has the power level necessary yet. Maybe it would be good in the Demacia Noxus region combo, but that's the only place my mind is going to right now. Scorched Earth. Kill a damaged unit or destroy a landmark. I do not like this card. I think Noxus is not a region that really likes to play this card in their decks. Like, the kill a damage unit is just a worse Noxian Guillotine, kind of. And destroy a landmark. This could be good, but I don't think landmarks are good enough to really warrant a deck spot for this. So this card might be good in like the first week of the expansion when people are going to be playing like their big dragons and their landmarks. So yeah, I'm saying big dragons because obviously that's going to be the deck known for playing big units and trying to win with that. And killing a damaged unit, dragons are always going to be damaged. And destroying a landmark, well, that deck doesn't run landmarks, but other decks will. So I think this is a card you'll play in the first week, and then you drop it after that because nobody plays landmarks. And just playing it for the kill damage unit effect is not good enough. The University of Piltover. 5 mana landmark. Round start, discard your hand, create 3 random cards in hand, and grant them fleeting. This is a meme card. This is just not good enough. Even in a discard deck with Jinx, I do not think this is good enough. Like, just imagine discarding your Jinx with this. You have to play Jinx on turn 4 to make this good at all and get any kind of like upside from it. Getting 3 fleeting cards, like even the treasure trove that you get in deep decks is often like, I mean, yeah, you're going to be happy playing them for 0 mana, but you can't even do that here. Even for 0 mana, sometimes I think the treasure trove is just underwhelming. So how is that ever going to be any different than discard? I don't know. I don't see it. Maybe there's going to be something when the Piltover champion Victor comes out, but until then, I do not think you're going to be playing this outside of a meme deck. Patched Porobot, a 2 mana Poro, 2/3, While I'm in hand, I have a random keyword that changes each round. When I'm summoned, grant me this keyword. So this card is very, very good, I think. Poro decks are going to be a lot more playable because of this card, because what they were missing up until now was a 2-mana Poro. And that's exactly what this is, and it's one with premium stats, and it gets a random keyword, and even any random keyword is good. Like, well, except ephemeral. Like, you don't want this to be ephemeral, but you know what I mean. Any actual keyword that does something, like even tough for early game, scout, elusive, probably not overwhelm. But if you combine this with Poro Snacks too, like at some point in a Poro deck, your Poro Snacks are just going to become grant your entire deck +1/+1 at burst speed. And that's insanely good. Like, Piltover already has the best Poro with the Poro Cannon, the elusive Poros. So I think this card just goes straight into that deck and it's going to perform very well. Like we're getting very close to the point where Poro decks are just insanely good. And honestly, I'm excited for it. I cannot wait to see that happen. This card is definitely helping that in the right direction. Alright, so we've talked about every card that got revealed so far. I really hope that you guys like what I did, where I wait for the champion to get revealed, and then I discuss and talk about every card that's been revealed up to that point. I'm planning on doing every expansion this way, so let me know if you have any suggestions, if I could do anything better or different. And yeah, let me know how you would like to see it, and I'll try to make any changes to make that happen. So for now, I hope you guys enjoyed the reveals, and I hope you have a great time in the new expansion too. And I'll see you guys there.